Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of TalkFlow. This is episode 27. Now, we do apologize again for being a little bit inconsistent, but yeah, we're back now. So the reason, let me just give you my reason why I was the most active recently. Well, the reason was because I was moving
Excuses.
house. Excuses, I know, but it was actually a valid excuse if you really think about it. But I was moving house. I've now settled in. As you can see, there's a different background layout you can see. So yeah, I've now settled in. I've got myself everything ready, and yeah, I'm ready to. We are ready to create a ton more TalkFlow videos. And yeah, in this video, what we're going to be talking about is the future of Webflow jobs and how you can find your own Webflow job, the unconventional routes of different Webflow jobs that you can have apart from the traditional routes like freelancers and agencies. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Vim, do you want to say anything? Do you want to mention why you were inconsistent?
I was consistent as hell, bro.
Mm.
Nah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, yeah, to be honest.
in June I was taking a break. I went back home to Malaysia for like a
Mhm.
month, and I think that was the month where you were busy as well, with like
Yeah,
what 7-8 hours time difference. We just couldn't find any time to sort of
yeah,
record.
literally.
Yeah, and then I think the last 2 weeks we were moving as well, so then July
Hmm.
was also a bit delayed, but we are back hopefully.
We are back.
That
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
every week.
yeah, so yeah, those are enough of our excuses. So we are
Yeah,
back and now yeah, we're gonna be hopefully posting more consistent
yeah, and I
videos.
think
So
yeah. So this idea sort of came out.
yeah.
We recently unlocked the community tab on YouTube, and I was
Hmm.
like, just interesting. Let me post a poll just to see who's active, right? And I thought people would be more interested in like the half year recap of the case studies, but everyone,
But
almost like
no one
seventy
cares about
percent,
us.
no one cares about that. Like 80% or seventy
Come
percent
on,
voted.
come on, guys. You don't. I can't believe you guys have done that, man. You don't care about us enough for you to know
Not
about
even
our
one
half
person
year
voted
review.
for it. Everyone wanted to know about the
It's a
Webflow
bit of a
jobs
shame.
and
It's a
like
bit of a shame.
that's
Maybe
fine.
maybe it's
It's fine.
because we've been inconsistent, man. They just lost interest in us.
Yeah,
But
it's all your
yeah,
fault.
we're back now, guys, and yeah. Anyways,
But
cool. Let's
yeah,
just jump
the
straight into this
yeah.
episode. So the first topic is traditional Webflow jobs, right? So the normal route, everyone knows this. So the entire premise of this is okay, you're in a position where you know Webflow, you're good at Webflow. What jobs can you have, right? So obviously there's three traditional routes that you can go down: the freelancer route, where you can freelance; the agency route, where you can start your own agency; and a job and employee route, where you can be an
Yeah,
employee for another agency, etc.
we
So
spoke
those are
about this
the
with
three traditional routes.
Harshit like 6 months ago, I
Yeah.
think. Like Harshit sort of did all three, and we interviewed him. And like one of the first few guests we had was Harshit, and
Hmm.
he was talking about all his experience with all of these three different things. I think we also made another video on just this topic, like freelance versus agency versus employee. But I think this one we're just going to be, strictly talking about being an employee, not a freelancer or
Hmm.
an agency owner. It's more of like how do you land a Webflow job at an agency, and how do you stand out from it, right? Like what other roles besides a developer you can do.
Yeah.
One thing the thing is, people might ask why would I do anything other than just being a Webflow developer? That's because
Hmm.
as Webflow grows, a lot of competition is gonna start coming in. I think there's already a lot of competition, but we are nowhere
Hmm.
near like WordPress or something like Squarespace and all that. There's so much more people who develop for those platforms rather than Webflow. And as Webflow continues to grow, you need to, as you normally say, stand out 1/3 of an inch. And what we are trying to sort of talk in this topic is basically what could you do to sort of be a bit more unique than just a Webflow developer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you look at the entire Webflow industry, or to be honest, it's actually bigger than that. If you look at all industries, in terms of like the online industries, like graphic designers, whatever, right? Everyone is a designer. Everyone is a graphic designer. Everyone's a Webflow developer. Everyone is a web designer. You have to have something that stands out. Most people, the people that do stand out, who are only Webflow developers is through their portfolio, right? Like they have a
Yeah.
solid portfolio, they have a certain design style,
Yeah.
their work speaks for
And that,
themselves, and that's how they stand out, right?
yeah, I was gonna mention that. Like, I think a lot of people sort of reach out or DM me on like Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, they or just email like saying, "Do you have any job?" or like, do you need any extra pair of hands?" And then they include their portfolio, and I open it and I'm just like, "This is your portfolio?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's always like, really, that's all it, like, can you do something else? Like, I don't see anything
Mm-hmm.
that sort of makes me want to be like, oh, I want to talk to this person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you notice, everyone who gets hired or gets a big project or is working with a big agency have a really sick portfolio. And
Yeah.
to be fair, I had this I think around June I was just looking to like get some people sort of join the agency. I think I told you I was looking for someone full time, and I was like still
Yeah.
not sure
Drone
whether
stuff,
I
right?
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then two people that sort of reached out, they gave their portfolio, and it, not being rude, but it looked average, right? There was nothing
Mm-hmm.
sort of stood out or anything that was like super
That's
great.
not rude, man. That's just realistic, bro. I can't lie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I was
exactly.
like, oh, okay, that's fine. Maybe they're junior, or they're just starting out. And then I made them an offer, and they were like, oh, I was expecting something like 2 or 3 times more of that. I'm like, bruh, dude, like, the guy was like, I was expecting somewhere between £4,000 to £6,000. I'm like, what?
A month.
4,000? Yeah, a month. I'm like, what? Really? And I looked back at his
Mm.
portfolio again just to make sure maybe I looked at something else, right? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
really? And I was like,
Yeah.
sorry, that's way beyond my budget at the moment.
Yeah.
But there's a huge discrepancy between like what is the role and like how much they want to be paid, and then the work that they actually have, right? Not necessarily your
Mm-hmm.
portfolio, but even your client projects. Like, your portfolio could be like basic as hell, but if a client work stands out, that is gonna make me feel like, okay, this person's worth it. But like a lot of people that sort of reach out, they don't have a good portfolio or good client work, right? And
Yeah. And
that
I think on top of that, it's like people that do have both, right? Because there are a bunch of developers
they are,
that do
yeah,
have a very nice portfolio and a very nice client work as well. But as the industry grows and grows like it is now, there's going to be more and more people who are fit in that
yeah,
category, right? There's going to be more
yeah,
developers, workflow developers that have a very good portfolio, very good projects, and it's going
yeah,
to make it even harder to stand out. So it's better to prepare now and kind of
yeah,
find your niche and whatnot.
yeah.
Because if
So
you are a bit late in the game as well, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to stand out, especially if you're late in the game. So yeah.
yeah. So another thing that I want to mention is all the jobs that
Hmm.
we will be covering, during this video. It's all, it's not a job that you would immediately apply for. If you're a junior, if you've
Hmm.
been at it for about a year or less than a year, these are jobs that you cannot do and aren't, I would say, aren't qualified yet to do. If
Hmm.
you're just starting out or if you're a beginner, you should always first try to get a Webflow developer job, be a Webflow developer for a couple of years so that you know what you can and most importantly what you can't do on Webflow, right?
Yeah.
Once you know that, like once you know the basics of Webflow, like inside out, and even like the advanced stuff of Webflow, that's when you can start to look at, okay, what else can I do besides a developer? How else
Hmm.
can I be more valuable to a company rather than just being a developer? And that's what we'll be talking about in this
Yeah.
video.
So in terms of the next topic, it's kind of the opposite of traditional workflow jobs, is unconventional workflow jobs, right? So these
Yeah,
are examples of jobs that is outside of the category of freelance agency and just a traditional employee. So there's a couple that come to mind straight away. So I think before we get into this, I think it's better to kind of explain. So I think I should put this topic before is the key to finding your niche in Webflow, which is the key to finding your unconventional job in Webflow as well. So the key to finding your niche in Webflow is looking at yourself, right? Like taking a good look at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself, what am I good at outside of Webflow, right? So there's a lot of people, right? For example, everyone knows Joe Krug from FinSuite. He was a very good salesperson before he joined Webflow, right? But now that he knows Webflow, he can combine that skill of Webflow and sales, and he could have, although he didn't, he started his own agency. he could have got a job, an unconventional job in Webflow, by being a Webflow developer who knows how to sell Webflow, right? So that's one example. Another example could be a JavaScript developer, right? If you know JavaScript and then you stumbled across Webflow and you liked it, you became good at Webflow, you can combine those skills and you can become a Webflow developer that knows JavaScript. You can do JavaScript solutions inside of Webflow, and people will hire you for that. Put that as your USP, right? Instead of just putting on your bio or Twitter description, whatever, right? I'm a Webflow developer. Put in I'm a Webflow developer that focuses on building custom JavaScript solutions, for example, something like that, right? So that kind of helps you stand out. And just to reiterate, the key is looking at yourself, and finding out what else are you good at apart from Webflow, and then finding a way to combine the both, right? I mean, just as an example, even today. So today, I think I spoke to you. I was so I just launched a website for a client, and we're having some issues with their ads manager, with their ads tracking codes, where their event link is not linking up, whatever. So something to do with analytics and Facebook Pixel, right? So I went on the Webflow forum as usual, and tried to find a solution. And I came across this guy. I forgot his name, but I actually did email him with a question, and he actually responded and kind of helped me out. But the premise of what I'm trying to say is he was a Webflow developer that was focused, that had a combined skill of analytics and ads and stuff. So he was an ad expert, but he was also a Webflow developer. And I'm sure that he gets a ton of clients for that, right? So again, it's all about finding what you're good at and then combining Webflow with that other skill. I think that sums it up quite, yeah.
I think that's exactly what this whole thing is talking about. Is if you're good at Webflow, what is your second? What are you best at? What's the second best skill, right? For us, I think it's design. Like if you're good at Webflow, design is our second best skill. Now, if you combine that, you become a designer and a developer, which again companies are looking out for. I am
That
looking
has
out for it.
huge
You are
advantages.
looking for
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Everyone's looking out for it, because if one person can do two person's job, that just cuts out so much communication, that just streamlines the entire process, right? But yeah, let's get into a couple of jobs that we sort of came up with, and things that we think in the future is going to become big. Is the first one I think is going to boom is, as you said, sales, right? As agencies start to grow, as more demand sort of comes into this industry, having someone who can sell Webflow to clients, but they also know have a very, very deep understanding of Webflow is going to be very valuable. If you can tell a
100%. Yeah.
client, no, you can't build that on Webflow natively, but you can do this and this and this and this and this, or you can do this and this and this to make it happen, right? If you have that level of expertise on Webflow, you naturally can become a salesperson, because sales is just
100%.
educating your client to get them to where they need to be. Client comes to
Yeah.
you with like, hey, I have this external CMS, can I use that on Webflow? Natively you can't, but if you know API, if you know code, you can say, oh, we can't natively, but we can write a bit of code to bring in your data into Webflow using these tools or this library or whatever that we can find on the web, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's a huge niche. I think I was thinking about this the other day. Like I was learning about systemizing everything, right? I was watching this YouTuber, his name's Alex something. It begins with H. I'm not sure, but he's quite big in like the marketing industry. And he was talking about systemizing your whole business. And I was thinking about, I'm like, okay, how can I systemize everything? And obviously that comes to hiring, right? So in my business, a Webflow business, right? There's obviously design, development, project management, all of that other stuff. All of those roles can be filled apart from sales. I've yet to
Yeah.
see a person in Webflow in the industry that, and I've been on the platform for quite long. I would like to say like a year and a half. I have yet to see a salesperson who focuses on selling Webflow. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking I cannot systemize every little part. I can. There's only one thing that's missing, which is I can't find a person that can sell Webflow. I always have to be the salesperson. You know what I mean? So that is a huge gap in the market. That I think if you're a salesperson and you enjoy no code and whatnot, I think that's a no-brainer. And I think definitely the first person who does that is going to see huge success, because you can be working for so many different agencies. You can be a freelance salesperson and work for different agencies. You have to be a bit, technical with that,
because
because
you got to understand, like,
uh,
not all founders or CEOs or whatever, they don't usually have, a lot of understanding of Webflow. They might have some intermediate level of Webflow expertise, but and that's why even when they are taking the sales call, they feel much more comfortable because they know
yeah,
what they know, and they're not over promising the client with like, oh yes, we can do everything, and then you realize you can't do it, right? But if you are a
yeah,
Webflow developer who knows or has extensive knowledge on Webflow or code or whatever, try it. And if you like sales, I think that's a very good path that will lead you to a job eventually. Like maybe not now, but
100%.
slowly as agencies start to want to grow their business, you will be like the sought after person.
Yeah. Or you could be like a consultant, you can be a Webflow
Yeah,
salesperson consultant. So you
yeah,
can help people, you can help
yeah.
founders sell Webflow,
Or
So
not even
there's
not even
so
sell
many.
Webflow, like
Yeah.
because if you know Webflows completely, and if you have a very good speaking skill or if you have very good people skills,
Hmm.
your whole business could just be a Webflow consultant, right? Companies
Yeah,
can pay you
exactly.
per hour,
Yeah.
and they can say, hey, I want to build this, can I do it with Webflow? You can
Hmm.
go yes, no, maybe. Or even if you want to extend that, you can be a no code expert. If you know so many different platforms, if you know their pros and cons, you know what you can build with Bubble, what you can build with Webflow, what's Bubble good for, what's Webflow good for, you pretty much become a consultant, right? Startups
Hmm.
especially, they will pay
Yeah.
someone $300-400 an hour just to talk to them about all these technical hurdles, what
Yeah.
need to be cautious about, what you can't do with these no code tools, what is just easier with code. But
Yeah.
to get to that point, you need to spend years and years in this space, not just Webflow, but eventually even in the no code space, right? Because
Hmm.
if people are paying you $300-400 an hour, you should give them a solution. If Webflow doesn't work, what else would work? Whether it's going to
Hmm.
another platform, whether it's going to Shopify, or whether it's going to, getting completely custom done with code, you need to
Yeah.
have that knowledge, maybe even some resources that these people can go into. So your whole business
Yeah.
sort of becomes a consultation business. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist yet, as far as I know. I don't know any agencies that does
Mm.
consulting, but this will definitely boom slowly. And
Yeah.
if you are
And
someone
I
who,
think just, yeah, I think just thinking about that as well. I remember Vim, how many times have I come up to you and ask you, oh, can this be done in Webflow? I've got this project.
yeah,
I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this. How do I do it? Bro, like, like, I'm literally being the
free
client, you know what I
consultation.
mean, in terms of
Yeah,
consulting. So it's like
and
Vim gives me free consulting. So it's like,
and I also
that
do it.
can,
I just thought about it like a few days ago because on the Webflow Expert Slack channel, people ask question and I just usually I don't answer it because I feel like
mhm,
I probably don't know anything. But recently I'm like,
mhm,
what's the worst can happen, right? It doesn't work. So what? It's for
yeah,
free. So I give them like some solutions or like some ways to fix their problem, and most of the time it works. And they're like, oh, thank you so much for like helping. I'm like, oh, I do know stuff. I there's
yeah,
always this
exactly, yeah,
thing of like, oh, maybe it just worked because it was magic or something. But
yeah,
slowly, once you start building all these skills, 2-3 years, you pretty much know a lot of things that most people don't know, especially if you spend so
hmm,
much time in it. And this is why I
hmm,
think consultants, Webflow no code consultants are gonna become a big thing.
yeah. And I think if you don't want to jump into it straight away, like for example, yourself, Vim, and me, like we are already Webflow developers. We already have our own agencies, right? But the thing is, because we know quite a lot about Webflow, we can kind of add that as like a little microservice as well. Like if
Yeah,
other agencies are looking for consulting, we can have like a small landing page on our website, and we can kind
yeah,
of sell that as like a microservice. So you can, do that just to test out if you enjoy it, and then if you do enjoy
yeah,
it, just go full time. So there's different niches. So I think that's enough of talking about the sales niche, but there's other niches as well. For example, there's one that I really want to be a part of, and I'm kind of joining is the SEO niche, right? Webflow with the SEO. I think that combined is so powerful. Firstly, the
yeah.
turnover and profit margins are insane. I think SEO is the most productizable service on the planet. Like it's so
Easily.
easily productizable and you can
Yeah,
easily scale it. It's so easy. And once you got a solid process and you know what you're doing, it's very, very easy to scale. I'm not saying that anyone can do it because it obviously does require some knowledge. and selling skills and
Yeah.
whatnot. But once you combine those and you sell Webflow websites and you reach out to those same Webflow clients that you have, sell them on SEO packages, I think it will be an insane return on investment, because
Yeah.
SEO, man, is like so productizable. Like, I think Peyton Clark Smith from Pay Digital, he's doing the same. I think his niche is Webflow and SEO. He runs a ton of SEO campaigns and he makes a ton of money. And on top of that, he gets results for his clients. I think the main thing, I was watching a video from Iman Gaji. I've been watching a lot of videos, but I've been watching a video from Iman Gaji yesterday, and he was talking about how, because he's in the marketing niche, right, where results are very predictable and you can literally write it down like his ABC results, right? Like, he runs ads. If the ads get sales, those are the results. But Webflow is kind of not quantifiable in a way. If you build a Webflow site for a client, because you built that website, yeah, you can track the conversion rates, yeah, you can track the retention rates and whatnot, but there's no one metric that you can use that's like, okay, this 100% proves the value of this website. But with SEO, there is, right? There is a quantifiable result, which is traffic, um, um, click-through rates, all of that stuff. And because of that, it's so easily productizable, which is why I don't really advocate for productizing your workflow service, because it can be done,
It's
but
very
it's very
difficult. Yeah.
difficult. Because, as I said, it's not a really, you don't really have any quantifiable results with Webflow.
Yeah.
But if you combine that with SEO, man, it's insane. And on top of that,
MMR, right? Yeah.
MMR,
Because
right? Yeah. And
something that I think
cash flow will be
I
so if you do SEO.
it's like, how do you charge monthly for Webflow development? Like, I cannot see any company paying $2,000-3,000 a month for Webflow development. Like, it's always something you can put an end date to it. Like, I can get it done in 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Very, very rarely company needs like monthly
Yeah.
updates, or even if they do, why
Mhm.
do they need to pay an agency rather than just hire someone? If they're going to be paying you
Exactly.
$2,000, $3,000, you could easily get someone for that money full time, just
Full
working on that
time.
one
Yeah.
thing, right? Yeah. So for me,
Mhm.
SEO is like, if you want MMR on Webflow that works, that's scalable, SEO is like a no-brainer. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of agencies don't do it because it requires constant effort, and you cannot sort of freelance to somebody. You need somebody full-time, just dedicated to that client and doing it
Mhm.
for you, and not like just jumping around in 10 different projects. If you can convince a client or an agency to hire you as a Webflow SEO technician, you are gonna, there's a job. You created a new job, right?
Yeah.
You can put SEO consultant at Webflow or something like that with Webflow.
Yeah.
Um, Another one that I think it's already sort of coming out is marketing. If you can combine marketing and Webflow, because you can sort of create a new role for yourself. My main example is Raymar he used to be at FinSuite, but Raymar is like a huge example on how you can combine he combined his passion for marketing and community and Webflow, because he did use Webflow. He knew what Webflow could do. He combined both. He created a job for himself, and he was, pushing, FinSuite's marketing team, ahead, a community team actually ahead. And FinSuite, announcing their new community team. Same thing with Relium and all, Edgar Allen. Everyone has a small community team, and
Mhm.
if you have experience in hosting events, organizing events, putting together streams or anything like this, and Webflow as well, right? You know what works with Webflow, how the Webflow space does marketing, because it is not how a traditional marketing space is for this sort of agency work. No, I don't think any agency runs ads, as far as we know. FinSuite say they don't run ads. Brillium says they don't run ads. It's
Mhm.
all organic. It's all through the community. If you know that, if you have a passion for that, you can then combine that with Webflow, and you can create a job for yourself at
Yeah.
an agency who's looking to grow their company.
Yeah. 100%. I think, yeah, bro. Like, and I think just another niche that I thought about right now as well is, I think, Vim, you were looking for this kind of person as well. It's being a Webflow developer I mean, it doesn't require any extra skill, but it's kind of a niche that you fit into. So a Webflow developer that focuses on building internal tools for companies. So that is
Yeah.
another niche that you can do. Like, I would love to hire a person like that. I know, Vim, you would love to hire a person like that. You can build
Yeah.
internal tools and internal
Yeah.
clonables and all of that stuff. Like, that is another niche as well. Another niche could be copywriting. You could be a web
Yeah,
developer and
pretty much
be
anything. I
good at
think let's
copywriting.
go back.
Exactly,
Let's
like
go back to
pretty much anything.
the clonable one, right? I think
Mm,
that is something a lot of people don't really know, is that Webflow showcase is still underused. If a company can get someone to constantly put out sick work every week, you will land a ton of clients. Like I know for a
you will.
fact, I know that
You will.
that
Yeah.
works, but it's just so difficult to get someone just to build clonables and templates, because everyone wants to
Yeah.
run their own agency, or they want to work on client work. They miss out that these clonables are actually the best way to get clients, because they see your work, they can see your structure, and they can immediately click on hire me and get in touch with you,
And the
right?
people that find your work in the Webflow showcase are already looking for Webflow
Yeah,
developers. So it's like
exactly.
you don't need to convince them or anything, right? So
Yeah, so
it's
if
a no-brainer.
imagine if you and I've been looking for someone like this for like I think 6-7 months now. It's like if you have a good clonable showcase, take that, go to an agency, just send them that link and say, can I build clonables for you? Because first of all, you get paid to build clonables, otherwise it's free. You're just doing it at your cost. And with clonables comes that thing where you're sort of free to do what you want, right? You can, if you have a cool idea, or if you have a cool design or whatever that you want to test out, you can test it out. That it's not a client work, it's internal work, which has a
Mm,
lot more freedom compared to a client work. And it's just so difficult. I've reached out to so many people in the showcase. They have sick work, but they have no interest in sort of pursuing it,
yeah.
because they want to do, they think it's like step one to get into like to do client work. Fine, if you're interested in client work, that's fine. But by just thinking of clonables and templates as like a low tier work, or something that you can't make money from, is it needs to change, man. I think companies would love to pay people just to build clonables, because they can test cool ideas. And it happens in my case as well. As I had just messing around with this one clone, the Stripe gradient. On the Stripe
Yeah.
website, there's this, it's a WebGL gradient. So then I was just messing around to see how I could do it, and I figured it out. I just left it there in my dashboard. And then a few months later, a client comes to me, completely unrelated. They don't know we have this already built out. They were like, is it possible to have the gradient like Stripe? And I was like, oh, it's already there. I just need to literally
Mm,
just copy, paste it, and it works, right? And that sort of happens with like, the tool stuff that I've done recently. A lot of the things that we put that I use it internally. I just copy and
mm,
paste code from there. And stuff like this is what is missing in the community. It's like people aren't so
yeah.
focused on clonables as much as they should
100%.
be.
I think like an example for me as well is my side menu animation. Like I use that so much, like for quite a lot of projects internally and for clients as well. So there's a simple copy and paste. So it's
Yeah,
like in terms of how do you create flow, that's a whole other topic. Where it's like just find out what will be useful for other freelancers. Like find out what you can do that will make freelancers
yeah,
go, oh,
anything that's
like,
fun, right?
yeah,
Like
that's
anything
easy.
that's
You know what I mean?
fun, you
So
just, yeah, it's like it's a library of components, your own components. You can do whatever the hell you want. And if a client comes and says, oh, can I have something like this, you can just literally share your
yeah,
team
pretty
clonable
much.
page and be like, choose what interactions you want. It's
Yeah,
it's still a very underused part of Webflow, which
100%,
I
man.
think has a lot more potential to be monetized.
Definitely. All right, cool. So yeah, those are the examples of niches. There's a ton more that we didn't
That's
mention, but
a
it's
lot,
literally like
but
I think that we should wrap it up now because we talked about pretty much everything there is. Like,
yeah,
okay, so just like a quick outro. The premise of I said premise so many times, but the premise of what we're trying to say is like find out a skill that you're good at outside of Webflow and then
yeah,
combine it. And then also look for different unique ways that normally people won't think of, right? To get jobs
yeah,
that we mentioned quite a few, Webflow and SEO, JavaScript and SEO, clonables and SEO, sales and SEO, sales and Webflow, all of that
yeah.
stuff, right? So
Because
there's
that
different stuff that you
and
can do.
Webflow and something, it's so much more valuable than, hey, I can just do Webflow development.
100,
Because I
110%,
can
man.
find
Yeah.
so many people that can do the exact same thing. I can do the exact same thing. So it's always like, why should I need to pay you to do it, right? I know it sounds very rude or whatever, but it's true, because when people are looking to hire, they want the most for their money, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
most of these agencies aren't funded by some startup, some venture capitalists. It's all money that they have made through the years by working. If you can just give them that thing of like, I can do Webflow and something else, meaning that I have more value to add than someone else, instantly you're going to be more recognized. Like, I would open that email if your subject says Webflow developer plus JavaScript developer. Like,
Mhm.
instantly that's going to open up. I'm going to read it. If there's a link, I'm going to call you, right? Whereas if you
Mm.
just say, are you looking for a Webflow developer, I can just be like, no, I'm not. And I
Yeah,
don't even open the email,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, so it's like, I think, and just as a last point, you have to start doing this now. Like, Webflow is growing so fast, and it's
Yeah,
crazy how fast it's growing. It's
it's
getting
hard
more
to, yeah.
competitive, even though you do not see it. It's gonna hit you like a truck when it does come, right?
Yeah.
So it is growing. Like the competition is growing. It's getting more cutthroat. So it's better to start doing it now. You have to start niching down now. No, not niching down, but finding different ways that you can stand out now. And this is just one method that we, are teaching you guys to do. So it's like, yeah, you have to start differentiating yourself now before it's too late. And trust me, it is happening right now. So you have to start now. All right, guys, if you did enjoy this video, make sure that you leave a like and make sure that you hit subscribe. Thank you very much, you guys, we actually hit 500 subscribers. So thank you very much for subscribing.
Yeah, man.
If you do not want to miss out on future episodes, make sure that you hit the bell icon. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.